Welcome to part 6, Creating Subplots. So Plotly has the ability to create multiple independent plots inside a single figure using this make subplots function, which is found in the subplots module. So that's what we do down here. We go into the subplots module and we import that make subplots function. And the way it works is you give it the rows and columns as parameters, rows and cols, and it'll create a grid of subplots with that many rows and that many columns. So if we had 3 rows and 4 columns, then it would create 12 independent subplots. So here we have a very simple figure with only 2 rows and 1 column. So it just makes 2 plots, one on top of the other. The output or the return value for make subplots is the figure. So this is step 1 in our process for making a Plotly plot. We create the figure. The next is adding the trace. So in the top subplot, we're going to put the deaths in Texas. And you can see here that the call is identical to our normal add scatter, except that we're going to set this row and call parameters to the specific location of the subplot. So it's just row 1, column 1, that's the top one. And we do the same thing for the predicted value. So we're going to have 1 trace for the actual, 1 trace for the prediction. And then in the bottom subplot, which is row number 2, we'll do the same thing, except we're going to use cases, and we will plot the Texas cases of the actual, and then the Texas, the prediction for the cases as the next one. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this and see what it looks like. So we've created our 2 plots. This is 2 rows, 1 column, and you'll see these are different plots. The above is deaths. There's no label for it just yet. The bottom is cases. Now, we'll have to clean this up a little bit because the legend repeats each time, and the colors are different. So maybe we want to make the colors of the actual the same and the colors of the prediction the same, and that's actually what we're going to do down below. So let's go down here and clean this up a little bit. So what we'll do here, we'll make the same same call to make subplots function. There are many parameters here, like anything else you can change. So here this sets the spacing between for the vertical, and so we're just setting that to be a specific number. Now, instead of calling each one independently, notice how similar these things are. We're just going to use a loop to shorten up our code a little bit. So we're going to create a variable for the kinds because we're going to go through deaths and cases. So we're going to loop through those deaths and cases and take a look at this. The start for enumerate is typically, or not typically, but it is 0, and we're going to set it to 1, and that's because the row, which we set down here, is not 0 in Plotly, it is 1. Okay, so we're going to loop through each one of the kinds, deaths and cases, and then we're going to loop through each of the, we're going to loop through each one of the data frames. So we made a dictionary over here of the actual and then the prediction. And just to show you what these are, since these are just the date up to the, let's look at the tail actually. So the very last, so this is the actual data up to the very last day that we set. So up to November 5th in this case. So for the prediction, it'll look the same, except it'll start on November 6th. So we did that work above. So this inner for loop loops through each one, the actual and the prediction. So it goes through, a name will be either actual or prediction, and DF will be either this DF Texas actual or DF actual prediction. And then we get this I variable, or sorry, we also enumerate over here, and this I will be set to 0 and then 1. So there's 2 values in kinds and 2 values in DF, so it'll make a total of 4 iterations total. Now inside the iteration is the adding of the trace, so we're going to use that add scatter again. We're going to pick the particular kind, so whether it's deaths or cases. The index will be used as the x-axis. The name will be either deaths, or sorry, actual or prediction. That's what is over here. Now the colors, to make the colors the same, So we're going to use I, so we're going to have to go back to Python indexing, so either 0 or 1, and the colors, we're going to just use the first two of the qualitative Tableau 10 color sequence. And we're going to use this line property to set it. And then the row, well, we already talked about that. The row will be set, with first with 1 and then with 2 for the second iteration, like that. So let's go ahead and execute this, and I'll talk about the next 2 lines over here. So here we have Texas as the title in the update layout. But more importantly, we see here that the actual and prediction only show up 1 time, and that's due to this update traces. So the update traces allows you to update some layout properties, but for individual subplots. So it has this row and column parameters that the update layout does not have. There is a show legend property in update layout, but it'll reference the legend for the entire figure. This allows you to say for individual traces, hey, we don't want it to repeat. So that was an issue over here. We had actual and prediction repeat for each one. So we just need to show it 1 time. All right, so that's how we clean up the subplots right there. And that is how we create multiple subplots or multiple plots in Plotly using this make subplots function.